Doug and Griff are facing a midlife crisis, as their filmmaking and acting gigs just aren't scratching the itch they used to. In an attempt to finally make a name for themselves, they set out to reboot one of their favorite franchises, Anaconda. The production doesn't go so smoothly, as it leads them into the depths of the Amazon, where they come face to face with a real, giant anaconda. This is Anaconda. Anaconda is a movie. Is it a reboot? Is it a sequel? Is it a spiritual successor? Yes. That is the best way I can explain it because it is kind of hard to explain. And it's also directed by Tom Gormican, director of The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, so he already knows how to make a little bit of a meta movie. And I'll admit, going into December 2025, this may or may not have been my most anticipated movie that started with the letter A. So is Anaconda 2025 going to sweep the Oscars? No. But I did enjoy it a whole lot. It's a pretty clever movie about IP and indie filmmaking, even if those things can probably not coexist with one another. It's Tropic Thunder with a giant snake, and I kinda dug that. The leads are all fun, and I can really resonate with their passion, and it all leads up to a pretty batshit insane third act. Let me tell you, Jack Black is a man who is able to give Dwayne Johnson a run for his money when it comes to starring in jungle movies. It makes sense that they both ended up being in Jumanji. They just love the jungle, I guess. Jokes aside, Jack Black and Paul Rudd are a pretty solid duo in this film. Jack Black obviously has such a great energy, and Paul Rudd really plays a good straight man to it. Even if Paul Rudd's character in context of the movie is more so about rebooting Anaconda than Jack Black's character. When Jack Black begins to Jack Black, you better not be around when he Jack Blacks. Steve Zahn is also quite funny too. I wish he was in more movies because he's great. One of the few redeeming qualities of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies. I didn't even like those movies as a kid. The titular snake, though, kinda pisses me off. Not because I'm ophidiophobic. One giant snake doesn't get under my skin as much as a bunch of little snakes crawling all over each other. Oh god, I hate talking about it. It pisses me off because it's not an anaconda. This was a problem in the original film too, because that shit's a titanoboa. That is a titanoboa, if I've ever seen one, and I haven't, because thank God those things are extinct. Snakes have their own megalodon, but why don't we get a Jason Statham movie called The Tit? Never mind, I answered my own question. Now, the snake scenes in the movie are all quite fun, but you definitely feel that PG-13 rating being detrimental to the film. Which is saying a whole lot because the original Anaconda was also PG-13 and it had some pretty solid kills. Especially the Owen Wilson kill. Wow, I hated that one. Now, the film does take a little bit to actually get to the Anaconda action. A sizable portion of the film is about our schlubby cast of characters actually making their movie. A lot of the comedy comes from them being amateur filmmakers and actors, which is something I just find humorous and rather endearing. There are some great comedic moments in the film though, even if there is one moment in particular that would have been so much funnier if it wasn't in the trailers. Luckily, they find a way to give you a good laugh during this scene that you don't see coming, but I really think this scene would have been so much funnier had it not been so heavily advertised. But here's the thing. Now, this is a film that could only work with the Anaconda IP. Never in my life have I felt the need to say an IP was integral to a movie. I am not joking when I say the Anaconda IP is an integral plot device in this movie, and that is when this film hits meta transcendence. Honestly, it's crazy to me that Sony owns the IP of something that has no notable characters whatsoever and is named after a real-life animal. How does that hold up in court? I really have to know. I can't help but think that is part of the joke, though. The original Anaconda isn't a very good movie. It's a fun, cheesy monster movie, but that's about it. So turning it into a meta comedy about Hollywood reboots is so much better than just doing the same thing again. This leads to a great cameo, which they also spoil in a trailer, but it's pretty funny. If they were going to pick a monster movie to turn into a comedy, I can't help but say they picked the right one. I honestly would be surprised to see Anaconda purists offended by this film. Come to think of it, I would also be kind of surprised to see Anaconda purist period. This is a film that only really works, in concept at least, with something like Anaconda. I don't believe you could do a movie like this with something like Jaws because it's fucking Jaws, the movie. When you think of movies, that's like at least one of the first 10 you probably think of. Anaconda, on the other hand, is, well, Anaconda. It's not even in the same league as Jaws. At least it's not Piranha. So is this a great movie? Well, here's a Smiling Friends clip to really sell how I feel.
You aced it.
Really?
Yeah, you guys made me laugh. That was awesome. Yes.
Wow, so my building is perfectly safe?
Fuck no, it's the worst building I've seen in my entire life, and you failed miserably. But that skeleton in the wall was funny shit.
Much like Jack Black's other film this year, a Minecraft movie, it's not amazing, but I got a lot of good laughs out of it. But this one I feel like I laughed more with the movie than at it. I hope you all enjoyed this review, and if you did, please consider hitting that like button, and if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be notified when my next review drops. Until next time, I'm Quint Dunaway, hoping you will keep it cinematic.